Welcome back, friends. This is Jason, Actualization. What we're going to be talking about in this video is honestly a very esoteric type of blood test. I'm going to be showing you guys the backdoor way to actually get it measured. I mean, what do most doctors care about when you go in for a routine checkup? They measure a fasted lipid panel, a FLP, right? And you have your total cholesterol, your HDL, right? Your high density lipoprotein. They give you your LDL, the low density lipoprotein, the so-called bad cholesterol. And then you've got the triglycerides. God, that is good water. Let's check the total dissolved salts. Got a TDS meter here. Triglycerides, right? And I would say of the conventional fasted lipid panel, the HDL to triglyceride ratio is the most valuable information. 0 ppm. Pure molecularly distilled water. That's what we like to see. The HDL to triglyceride ratio is indicative of overall metabolic health and by extension, cardiovascular health. There's been this fixation, this obsessive rumination over what is quite frankly a red herring, a distraction, namely low density lipoprotein. And that's evidenced by the fact that the goalpost of LDL keeps getting shifted lower and lower and lower. And if it was in fact the true target, the true cause of atherosclerosis and by extension heart disease, then why does it keep moving? Why does it keep shifting? That's what I'm going to illuminate in this video by talking about LDL's evil twin brother, oxidized LDL, ox-LDL. And what I'm actually gonna do right now is I'm gonna show you guys the backdoor way to actually get this lab drawn. I'm gonna pull up my Google Chrome browser right now. And if you follow along with me, either on a phone or laptop, you basically just go to walkinlab.com. And I will preface too by saying there are certain states that this is not allowed in. In fact, let's review that right now. So once you're at walkinlab.com, you're gonna go right about here to the lab locator. You're gonna put in your zip code. But here's the preface, here's the contingency. So residents of New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maryland, and Arizona are not able to utilize this walk-in service. I guess technically if you're in Arizona, you could use LabCorp. So you'll see when we go into the search box here to search for whatever lab we happen to be interested in this case, an oxidized LDL, we can see there's LC and QD. LC stands for LabCorp and QD stands for Quest Diagnostics. So in my case, for my zip code, it was Quest Diagnostics was the closest facility to me. And you can basically just create an account on this website and you do have to pay out of pocket for this. But again, this is a type of lab that is incredibly esoteric and most doctors aren't going to order on their own. You can do your best maybe to coordinate with them and to illuminate, enlighten them on the importance of this lab. But by and large, this is something that has just been flying under the radar for decades. And what we're gonna do now is go into my Gmail, because I actually recently just had this lab done. And what I'd really like to do is open up a new atmosphere, an environment of online fitness and health influencers who let you peek behind the curtain and see underneath the hood. You know, anyone who is giving you fitness or health advice should be transparent and showing you what their lab work actually entails. All right, so just got my blood work done. We're doing the LDL today, the oxidized LDL. You don't want to just take the map that they're giving you hook, line, and sinker. You want to see the territory that they have trekked with the map that they have devised and are advocating and dispensing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my confidential lab record, the CLR, and I'm just going to pull up my most recent results here from May 27th of this year, 2023. So this was a oxidized LDL. So let's go into the final results and see what that entailed. And you'll see what it gives you is the reference range and basically the different stratas, the different risk that each range confers. So if you're greater than 70, that's going to be your high risk group. Between 60 and 69 is going to be moderate, and then less than 60 is going to be optimal. And I was at 44. So let's talk a little bit about that. Because I eat 1 pound of red meat every single day. So on the surface, you would think that would not be cardio protective. That would not confer me with cardiovascular health and fitness. But the problem is that, like, for decades, we've been deluded into digging down the wrong hole, so to speak. We've gone in the wrong direction. And what we've done is we've obsessively emphasized LDL cholesterol without realizing that unless the cholesterol becomes oxidized, that's the only way that it can actually be injurious to the endothelium. That's the only way it can be atherosclerotic in nature. That's the only way it can induce atherosclerosis, is if it actually gets damaged, if it actually gets oxidized. And that is the fundamental point that has been overlooked throughout this entire discussion and, quite frankly, ad nauseum debate over saturated fat versus seed oils. And you guys know my very public stance on this, which is that saturated fat has merely been made the scapegoat for the doings of these industrial oils that are made in factories that resemble oil refineries, that are riddled in highly processed foods that come in bags, boxes, cans, and containers. And the truth is that my ox LDL of 44 is no mistake. It's a very intentional result. It's a combination of building a better body. What I advocate is a 50-40-10 split of saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated fat intake, respectively. And what those particular fatty acids can be likened to is like the story of the 3 little pigs, where one little pig made his house out of bricks, the other out of sticks, and the other out of straw. We want predominantly bricks. We want a body that is fundamentally resilient and resistant to oxidation. Saturated fat. We're talking about full fat dairy if you digest it. If you're lactose intolerant, try lactate pills. See if you can find a form of dairy that you do in fact tolerate. We're talking about plenty of red meat. Beef is really the best. Even eggs. Don't fear the cholesterol in eggs. But also realize that having that 50-40-10 split is the way to build a better body, but we also want to, so to speak, recruit, employ bodyguards, antioxidants. And that's something that the keto and the carnivore proponents community, quite frankly, just overlooks. And we're talking about things like wild blueberries, pomegranate juice, above and beyond anything else that is unparalleled, and potentially dark chocolate if you happen to enjoy that. You want antioxidants, but you want that in the context of a body that is already fundamentally resilient and resistant to oxidation. And that's how I got to 44, guys. And just so you know, I wasn't even fasted fully during this lab draw. They recommend 10 to 12 hours fasted. I had been maybe 6 hours fasted. I just happened to be in the area and I went by the facility. It was a Quest Diagnostics facility. I'm there, I'm scanning in with the QR code. I just happened to be in the area and I literally just purchased it on a dime. I'm in the middle of a protein sparing modified fast as well. So I don't even have, at the time of this test and lab draw, I didn't even have the water soluble antioxidants that I would typically have every single day. Like every 12 hours for each meal, I get either wild blueberries or pomegranate juice, but I hadn't had either of those in weeks. So this is literally the result of a lot of red meat. And I also supplement with a vitamin E complex, vitamin C, beta carotene. Those are fairly powerful antioxidants as well that contribute to this. So how many people do you guys see getting this lab draw? They'll show you the typical lipid panel, but they won't actually show you how much oxidation is actually occurring. You know, people are talking about ApoB now, or LP(a), and in and of themselves, those particular lipoproteins are not actually atherogenic. It's once they become modified and oxidized, it's just the fact that ApoB particles happen to be more prone to oxidation. But if you want to go directly to the territory, guys, get it ox-LDL measured, and let's start a trend. Let's see, what are these different influencers' actual ox-LDL levels? I'm super curious to know, particularly people on the carnivore diet, like Sean Baker, who's my brother. Like, I've met him, I've trained with him in person. Awesome dude, love the guy. And I think it's a solid foundation. It's a really, really good door to walk through, but not necessarily the best room to stay in. And as someone who'd suffered for close to a decade with an autoimmune disease that made my esophagus so inflamed that food would completely impact it, just bringing me to my knees and wrecking all havoc and hell. I say this as someone who has benefited from eating the majority, a preponderance of the food that I intake as red meat, as beef. It's a great staple food. Contrary to conventional belief and wisdom, it is incredibly healthy, but you also want to have antioxidants to couple that and to defend you from oxidation. So ultimately, guys, omnivore is optimal. I'm curious, post a comment down below. Have you ever heard of ox-LDL? Has your favorite fitness or health influencer ever talked about it? Ever had it actually measured themselves to make sure that they are below 60? Guys, this is incredibly important. I love you guys very much. Thanks for checking out today's video. And as always, until next time, friends, find your freedom. Take care, guys. Peace.